Rains and woe, extensive coverage of the floods, landslides and chaos the rains caused. Good evening and welcome to Primetime News on air and online at onespotmedia.com. I'm Archibald Gordon.
And I'm Doreen Samuels. Also this evening, sunny side down. Rains ravaged the St. Catherine community.
Chaos in Cave Valley. Residents of the St. Anne area survive an onslaught but have to make a run for it.
Brace for more and more rains coming. An update from the Met Service, but school's out. What happened to classes and exams today?
Road work, a live update from the National Works Agency about the state of the island's infrastructure.
In the business day downturn, Dolphin Cove shares profit news.
There's also sports, post commentary and weather in the primetime package. But before the break, the feedback question.
How were you affected by heavy rains today?
Share comments online, facebook.com/Television Jamaica and tweet us at Television Jam.
Please stay with us. Primetime News returns after this break.
Welcome back to Primetime News. Special welcome to the folks watching on onespotmedia.com.
A reminder as well that you can download our One Spot Media app in the Google Play Store or the App Store as the number 1 followed by the word Spot and Media.
Heavy rains have wreaked havoc in some communities island-wide, with floods damaging houses, roads and other infrastructure and leaving the government tallying a bill that's certain to run into multi-million dollars.
There are reports of significant damage in all but a few areas, but Clarendon and St. Catherine are said to be among the worst affected parishes.
In northern Clarendon, rains flooded communities and damaged bridges. In one St. Catherine community, people had to climb on roofs, fences, walls as flood waters surged through the area. This
evening we have team coverage of what took place in communities across the country, what the authorities are doing and what it means for the national budget.
We begin in St. Catherine, where people in Sunnyside, just outside Linstead in the parish, had to be rescued by Jamaica Defence Force and Jamaica Fire Brigade personnel after flood waters surged through the communities and swept into houses.
People afraid for their lives had to climb onto roofs, walls, fences, well, just about anything.
This evening, a cleanup effort is underway, but first, let's show you the chaotic scenes some people captured on their phones. TVJ's Dashan Hendricks picks up this story.
Dramatic scenes shown here from an amateur cameraman shooting with his phone in Guyzale, St. Catherine.
We're at the main road that leads to Guyzale, Redwood, and all those areas, St. Mary, lead you to St. Mary. And this is the main road, cut right in two.
A road transformed into a river, cutting off residents. Some have been marooned on the other side since last night. The alternative route is also cut off as the rivers in the area overflow, close to farms which are now inaccessible.
I don't know what the government is going to do this time. The last time they do a makeshift thing. Look at it now. Just back it up with bowlers. They put some big bowlers that only 3 could hold on a truck.
The residents believe they will be marooned for a long time unless help comes quickly. In Dover, St. Catherine, similar scenes.
All right, and look here. People look here, road gone at Dover Gully. What are road gone? Yeah, man, road gone, me I tell you, man. Road gone, clean, 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 clean.
Flat bridge in the Bogwalk Gorge was similarly impassable, as shown by this still, as the Rio Cobre overflows its banks. Here in Spanish Town, a stone's throw from the hospital. In the vicinity of the old Iron Bridge, a clear picture of the muddy Rio Cobre. Waters which are normally 50 feet below the road surface, almost within touching distance from the top of the bridge. At the intersection of Brunswick Avenue and Walks Road in Spanish Town, the road was impassable also to pedestrians. Only heavy-duty vehicles could make it through the water. In Sunnyside, Linstead, things were anything but for this family.
We need help at Sunnyside, St. Catherine, Linstead. This lady is outside from after 3 this morning with her twins, and we have been calling for help. And we're calling the JDF, we call fire brigade, we call the police. Everybody come, but nobody cannot cross it.
They were eventually rescued, but will no doubt be telling this tale for a long time. Dashan Hendricks, TVJ News.
Still in Sunnyside, people have been counting their losses in the wake of those floods.
The aftermath of massive flooding in Sunnyside district St. Catherine. Houses were a mess as floodwaters rushed into homes, sweeping furniture around and leaving them like this. Their furniture was the last thing on their mind when this was unfolding about 4 o'clock Tuesday morning. Angela Lewis resorted to drastic measures.
My mom, no, she's not walking properly. So I was thinking in this case, what am I going to do? So I had to, along with my niece, you know, we put her on the counter because I thought that was the best place for her to be.
She's not the only one telling that kind of tale. Several houses down, Lennox Plummer was tallying his losses. At least know that he's no longer worrying about his safety.
Bed, fridge, name it. What not? All of them something in the pile up now. Because water come about 3 feet high in the house.
The mud and muck is not the only evidence of the raging waters. The floodwaters did this to this truck. Residents say the truck had been parked several meters Not for the first time. They were complaining that the area has become vulnerable since the north-south highway was built.
When I was a little kid, I grew up, walk around when rain fall, everything all right when rain fall. If I try to make the place, debris and water come down, flood the place all the time.
Every time the rain drew right here, it deemed impossible. They can't cross it, right? And we're saying to the relevant authority, we need, just give us what we ask for road. All we need is just road, yeah? That's all we need.
And communities have been cut off, bridges and properties washed away as the heavy rains wreaked havoc in Clarendon yet again. For a look at those images and the details, here is TVJ's Krista Campbell.
The picture of devastation in northern Clarendon, from Pennants to Frankfield and all the communities in between. Roughly 10 miles of flooded roadways, properties and landslides, breakaways and even bridges, shops and vehicles washed away in the water's fury. The Rio Minho causing most of the damage, moving menacingly along the Maypen Bridge and the Maypen Bypass earlier in the day, then overflowing its banks and flooding roadways in areas like Panarsos, Pennants and Frankfield. Maypen Mayor Winston Maraj and a team from the Municipal Corporation toured Thompson Town.
The river overflowed the banks and has put on this road heaps and heaps and heaps, tons and tons of sand, shingle, you name it. Whatever the river produces, it's right here on this road, you can find it.
He called it a total disaster.
Some 10 trucks being loaded with the sand from the roadway by a tractor, and it seems like that won't be finished until in the evening. Now we have heard about Prospect, which is another community to the east of us, where we understand it's worse than this.
So too was the community of Frankfield.
There's no way in, no way out of Frankfield right now. I just spoke to the councillor up there, and he's having challenges also. He has a tractor here trying to clear some of the land slippages. But we have 2 bridges that are completely washed out in that area.
A foundation stands as the only reminder of one of 2 shops which were washed away in the heavy floodwaters in Pennants. In another section of the area known as Panarsos, a woman fears what will become of her house.
The whole of the place at here where see house there, so I have my picnic in my house just to see him. Anybody can step out and make a bad slipper down there, then gone.
The people say successive governments have failed to fulfill promises to address the situation.
We have to do our river training. If not, we're going to lose all the houses from Panarsos.
The river in Spate, several areas have been cut off. One such place is White Hill Ground.
This is the road to go over there. Other than that, we go through that district named Kral, which not even donkey can walk on it straight. There's no good road to walk there.
So persons over there now?
Yes, persons. You have more than 60 persons trapped over there right now. I'm the only one out here because I moved up from there from last week. Right now my mother is there where right now I have to go try to get some food to her. And that's no electricity is there and things, so I have to go try to get some canned stuff to her.
Meanwhile, sheer heroics helped save the lives of at least 1 carload of people in Ballas River.
The car started to float. When it started to float up now, to get the lid out of the car. And by the time you get the lid out of the car just take and drift. A tree thump end up lick the car into the river, and from there the car just take and drift straight down.
Other vehicles, including a truck, were washed away from other communities into Pennants. It's too early to estimate the extent of the damage in Clarendon. Krista Campbell, TVJ News.
And the councillor for the Chapelton division of Clarendon, Herschel Brown, says he's particularly concerned about the level of assistance being given to areas which have been marooned. He said areas like Trout Hole Pass have been cut off in heavy rains in the parish for over a week now.
Immediately we have to get some food to them, probably food and medication. That's an immediate need. And then of course we have to clear all the blockages so that we have a free flow of traffic again in these areas.
Our top story this evening, heavy rains have wreaked havoc in some communities island-wide, with floods damaging houses, roads and other infrastructure, and leaving the government tallying a bill that's certain to run into millions. Chaos in Cave Valley still ahead. Residents of the area survive an onslaught but have to make a run for it. And in business news, downturn. Dolphin Cove shares profit news. We'll be right back.
Helps me stay cool, 'cause I drink cool. I cool water, feel like water. Helps me stay cool, 'cause I drink cool. I cool water, feel life.
There's something new and amazing that mommy buys called Surge lactose-free cow's milk. It's real milk that's easy on my tummy and tastes really yummy. This means everyone can enjoy real milk now. Mommy says with lactose-free milk, she lives worry-free. There's 1% for mommy and daddy, full cream for me. Look at milk now.
Introducing Surge lactose-free cow's milk. Enjoy real milk. Available island.
Welcome back. Continuing the news. Emergency rescue operations had to be sought in sections of St. Anne as major flooding impacted sections of that parish. The Cave Valley community has been hard hit by flooding, forcing a total evacuation and shutdown of the town square.
Business operators, including those of a funeral parlor, had to be evacuated from Cave Valley in southern St. Anne as rains poured Monday night into Tuesday morning. By sunrise, the square was submerged in up to 7 feet of water in some areas. Deputy Mayor of St. Anne's Bay, Sidney Stewart, who visited the devastation, told TVJ News that shelters, including 2 emergency locations in Clarksonville and Inverness, have been opened for victims. 2 boats were also sent into the area to help with the rescue exercise. One shop owner, Vivian Hill, who operates a furniture and hardware store, says he has lost millions in damage. By 5 o'clock, we were told that the community was completely evacuated. Other areas in St. Anne that were also impacted include Moneague, Limehall, Douglas Castle, Cascade and Miami Bay. Emergency crews also had to help in those areas as roads were blocked and flooded, rendering them impassable. Herman
charted a course through their homes were again flooded this morning's. In this morning's downpour, there were flooded streets in other flood-prone areas like New River, as well as along the Holland Bamboo Main Road, and places like the Santa Cruz Bypass were impassable earlier in the day.
Land slippages and flooding caused major problems in the eastern end of the island as some motorists and residents tried to dodge rocks or to avoid floodwaters. Motorists were affected by falling boulders and blocked roads, while business operators and residents saw water levels destroying their belongings. TVJ's Herman Green covered St. Mary, Portland, and now reports.
No loss of life, thankfully, but land slippages and falling rocks made commuting through areas like Jarvis Street in Port Maria, St. Mary, and sections of Portland a nightmare for residents. This motorist was driving from Port Maria when falling rocks crashed into his vehicle.
So not that time we cried up. Right in front of me just come down. There's nothing cried a while ago. Not that time we cried up.
Was you alone inside of the car?
No, me and 4 more somebody.
Any injury to anyone?
No injury to anybody. But the car, I can't see the car mashed up and things.
A number of land slippages in Portland also kept the National Works Agency busy. In the meantime, motorists in Port Maria, St. Mary were being affected by floodwaters. Even rescue workers from the Port Maria Fire Station had to themselves be rescued.
fire unit has to be clearing the heavy water for us to use the roadway. Develop some form of mechanical problems, and indeed we have to use another pickup to pull the fire unit out of the water because of the how deep the height of the water in the town of Port Maria.
For business operators on Warner Street and Market Street in Port Maria, the flooding is again costing them. Vivine Silvera operates a clothing store.
Again, how much am I going to bear? How much? But I still trust God. No life, no loss, and whatever left, we are going to just try to sell them. That's all.
Homes in Pagy, Frontier, Albion Mountain and Stewart Town were also flooded up to waist high with water in some areas. When the water subsided, the cleanup process and calls for solution.
I plead to the authorities, do something about Port Maria and its drainage problem. Please, we have to do something this time. We can't continue like this for any longer.
Herman Green, TVJ News.
Back to our earlier story, floodwaters also caused dislocation in sections of St. Thomas. TVJ's Shamela Mitchell went to that parish.
Oh my God, it's devastating.
Born and grew in St. Thomas, and I've never seen anything like this before.
That's how some residents in St. Thomas described the heavy rains in the parish, which started Monday evening. Several areas were affected, making it not so easy task to get through the parish. The Pomfret Main Road was impassable for several hours. This taximan tried to make his way across, but was stuck for quite some time. When the waters in that area subsided, our news team was able to get to other areas such as Winchester and Bath. I am standing in the middle of the Bath Fountain Main Road in St. Thomas. The road is now impassable. There is debris. There is also a downed coconut tree. The river is also in spate. We also understand that residents living on this side of the community, they have evacuated their homes as a result of the recent heavy rains. Meters away, this woman was counting her blessings. Laverne Campbell says she was rescued by her neighbors after floodwaters came in on her and her children in the wee hours of the morning while they were asleep.
About 5 o'clock this morning when I woke up, I hear my daughter call me. And when I look on the floor, it was just pure water. When I opened the door, the water just comes straight in from the front straight to the back. I had to take the kids them to neighboring house.
See if they could get emergency. Well, when I was there for a while, the pump operator, which was Danzel Bignall, and one of the cowmen, I saw them coming along the dike. So when they came, they showed me a rope. So I hung onto the rope and they pulled me across.
His life was spared. The same could not be said for this woman's animals.
One donkey and about four of the goat washery. Well, the donkey is about $30,000 fee, and the goat them roughly I put them for the about 32. Well, roughly I say about $60,000-$70,000.
Shamela Mitchell, TVJ News.
The Kingston Public Hospital has cancelled all elective surgeries until further notice due to the effects of the heavy rain. Additionally, all patients well enough to be discharged have been sent home. This as the weather-affected staff turn out at hospitals and health centres across the island.
So far, we have had a few hospitals that have been affected by major leaks like Maypen and KPH, where wards have had to be either downgraded or downsized in terms of affecting the number of patients, and that would have affected to some extent the service that we provide. In terms of the health centers, a number of them have been closed because of a lack of staff. We've had about, in the public health system, about 50 or 60% on average of staff that have turned up over today because of the inclement weather.
Now, the flood damage is expected to cost the government millions of dollars. At a press conference today, officials said it's still too early to place a price tag on the damage, but a comprehensive review would be carried out on Friday. The Met Office also reported that rainfall over the past few days is above the normal average. Details from TVJ's Andrea Chisholm.
Heavy rains drenching all but western parishes for the last few days. For the Met Office, it's way higher than expected.
Maypen area of Clarendon as well, we've seen over the past 3-4 days 155 millimeters, where the average for the month is 139 for the entire month. In the St. Mary parish, at St. Mary Banana Estate, we saw 187.2 millimeters. The usual amount for the month is 148.
The end result, massive infrastructure damage.
Because that we are looking at is not something I want to mention at this time, but as my colleague reminded me, we made available to the municipal corporations just yesterday $175 million, and that was to be spent in the parishes of Clarendon, Manchester, Portland, St. Elizabeth, St. Thomas and Westmoreland.
The St. Anne Municipal Corporation will also be added to the list. For Finance Minister Audley Shaw, it's too early to state the fiscal impact.
We do have some contingency funding in the budget. Laura Stark is here, Director of Budget at the Ministry of Finance, and we stand ready to begin to assist.
In the meantime, the Education Minister said most students turned up for their CSEC exams Tuesday. For those who did not, they should make a report to their schools, which will pass on the information.
There are usually two remedies. Either we do a supplementary paper, depending on how many students across the island would have been affected, and the other alternative would be to use internal grades and forecast grades as the final determination of their scores.
Regarding Wednesday, Mr. Reid said schools should reopen, but each institution should assess the situation and make their decision. As it relates to the weather forecast,
we were at the peak today, moving up from yesterday's rainfall, and we are expecting to go down tomorrow and even less on Thursday, where on Friday we expect that conditions will be getting back to what we consider to be normal at this time.
Andrea Chisholm, TVJ News.
And we're now joined by Stephen Shaw, who is Communications Manager at the National Works Agency. Thanks for joining us, Stephen. Now, how badly was the road network affected?
We had significant impact in at least 10 of the 14 parishes across the country. As a matter of fact, as at 6:30 this evening, we still had some 23 roads that continue to be impassable. We'll have to go to those areas tomorrow with a view to having at least single lane access returned. Most of these areas are being impacted by landslides, scoured surfaces, and in one case, which is the Donington Bridge in St. Mary, the approach to the bridge has been washed out. Some protective works that we had done within the channel of the Tiber River, those protective works have been significantly damaged, and so we'll have to move quickly to ensuring that that structure is not compromised any further.
Now, there are some major corridors that people tend to pay attention. Let's start with Bogwalk Gorge. Can people get through there now? We understand it was closed today.
The gorge remains impassable. We will have to revisit that one as soon as the weather condition allows. A full assessment will have to be done as to the integrity of the road, the bridge, and it is very likely that debris, stones and the like would have been lodged on the road, and so we'll have to do some amount of cleaning up before we can say we can give the all green for persons to once again use the Bogwalk Gorge.
And what's the alternative if they're not using the gorge?
We are still suggesting that persons use either the north-south highway or the road through Sligoville. The Sligoville Road, we have one or two small landslides on it, but it is passable.
Okay. Now, what other major roads or corridors are now closed, reduced to like single lane traffic?
In Clarendon, we are trying to regain access to several roads there. The corridor from Danks to Crofts Hill continues to be impacted. We also have in St. Catherine the road from Glengough to Williamsfield. We have some 30 landslides on that particular road. Zion Hill Bridge to Tullow is also being impacted by landslides. In St. Mary, the road from Pembroke Hall to Maiden, that one is Maiden Hall, that one is also impassable, and we will be going there tomorrow with a view to having it reopened.
It certainly is a busy time for the National Works Agency. What are you doing now over the next 24 hours in terms of addressing the areas most in need?
The first order of business is to try and get access back into and out of these areas. We have a mitigation program that we started just last week, valued at $71 million. That clearly will have to ramp up because there are some areas that we have seen drains being blocked, and we will have to move quickly to having those reopened. We have to work with what we have at this time. We know that a significant amount of money, in addition to that which we have been given through the Capital A, will be required, but we are working with what we now have.
Thank you very much, Stephen Shaw, Communications Manager with the National Works Agency. Rising waters left householders in sections of St. Catherine wondering what next. Kirk Wright has stories about people in Spanish Town, Portmore and other parts of the parish.
Rising waters in Portmore and Spanish Town provided the perfect spectacle for motorists. For Amanda Scott in Thompson Pen, it was a nightmare. Too embarrassed, she asked us not to show her face. Amanda Scott in Thompson Pen, it was a nightmare. Too embarrassed, she asked us not to show her face. She moved into her partially finished one, no choice but to start over.
Is it your first experience? No, but I was much younger.
What is it hurting so much this time around?
Because me just finished my house and then come like me going to start all over again. I have a baby, I just 8 months and all my bed wet.
It appears if you're not prepared for this. You weren't prepared for this.
Not necessarily. Not necessarily.
It's either this or leave your furniture to the mercy of the rising waters. They know the rains aren't over just yet, but the people are in a haste to get their lives back together. It's not the first time Thompson Pen residents faced this kind of dilemma. But they argue there's little to do about it.
I've been speaking with the minister earlier this morning, and he's fully abreast as to what we are facing in St. Catherine. We just have to hope that the rain subsides quickly, early, and we can get in to see the damages that have occurred, and to see how best we can, clear the areas and let the lives of the citizens get back to normalcy.
On McFarlane Avenue in Fairview Park, Spanish Town, it was a bizarre experience for many households. At this house, every room and everything was underwater.
The problem that we're having is that there's a pond that they said is supposed to be a catchment. When the water came, it's supposed to run after the pond. But the pond is just not big enough to handle the volume of water. What we really need is a channel to lead away the water. When Dr. Barr was the MP, they came and they dig the pond bigger. We told them that that's not going to work. They said that they spoke to the engineers, but the engineer said that it will be. Well, we are living here, we know what the problem is, we know that the pond, the water just needs somewhere to run away.
The residents could do only minor mopping up. They will have to wait until the water subsides before they can realistically get their houses dry. For them also, this experience is not new. Portmore, the rains flooded what's to become the new Aki village. But Portmore's Mayor Leon Thomas says that problem is easily rectified.
We already just assessed the situation, see where it needs a berm to take the water from off the village. So we are going to put in that berm. And if you look across there, it's only 3 shops that are affected so far. And all we need to do is to put in the berm, get rid of this water that comes through, and channel the water along the Ryoko.
His main concern is the likelihood that homes could get flooded from some collapsed culverts and drains in mainly Greater Portmore.
Critical things that is happening in Portmore, inside of Greater Portmore, we have some collapsed drains in Greater Portmore, and it's also threatening the roads and some homes. Along Port Tennis Road, we also have drain blockage, where we have flooding on the road, and also people on Quarry Drive in Bridgeport is also threatened from that flooding that is taking place. George Lee Boulevard also, some section of George Lee Boulevard is flooded. Some section of Waterford, Independence City, Merkel Way, Westchester communities also flooded.
Kirkwright.
And we now go to Archie, who has been monitoring comments on social media. Archie?
Thanks, Lorraine. Here's our question today. We're asking, how were you affected by the heavy rains? Tamika Gordon says, Dyer's Hanover had hurricane-like wind with heavy rain. Even my flowers were blown down. However, I have not heard of any flooding in Hanover. The seawater in Lucy is brown and rough. Rain's falling right now, she said. Kirk says, I ventured out with the hope that the rain would ease. Funny enough, the rain and the wind got worse. When I reached school, there was no one there to teach. The place was flooded. He's talking about Mona High. Chelsea Ann Lewis says, in Maroon Town, St. James, the rain started to fall some minutes after 9 last night. There weren't any stars in the sky, so I knew it would have rained. It really poured though. No wind or anything of that kind, just heavy raindrops, and it eased up this morning after 10 o'clock. Lee Shore says, off St. John's Road, Spanish Town, St. Catherine flooded outside, came to my doorway, and nearby Pigpen was also flooded, and pigs nearly washed away. Bless God, I'm safe and dry. Kilo says, well, I live in K Valley, St. Anne, and it's flooding right now, and I hope the rain stops. Wouldn't want a repeat of what happened during Hurricane Ivan. And finally, Maria Wynn saying, I'm in Resource, South Manchester, and apart from the very heavy noisy sound of the rain on the rooftop, I wasn't affected at all. Keep your comments coming on Facebook and Twitter, facebook.com/Television Jamaica, and the tweets to @Television Jam. Business news and news from overseas plus sports.